Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine.
I met an American. He served in Afghanistan. He came here to help Ukrainians who've lost arms and legs. He wants to give them a purpose in life, and he's helping training these guys who are missing arms and legs to demine Ukraine.
Joe Lindsley.
Joe Lindsley is quickly becoming an American treasure in broadcasting.
Welcome to Ukraine Bank.
Massive Russian missile attack overnight on several regions in Ukraine. Joseph Lindsley is in Kharkiv. Joe, are you okay? What happened where you are?
Hey, Bob. Well, good afternoon from Kharkiv. I'm talking to you right now from a park, from a lovely outdoor cafe. And we did indeed. It was a brutal night. We had 15 Russian missiles, it seemed, hit the city. Very intense night in a small space of time. And I've been through many of these strikes. But what we had yesterday, I mean, we certainly have a new level of intensity. And as this morning, much of the city was without power. And then once again, just maybe about 40 minutes ago, I was running through the park here, working out, and there were two explosions. And really remarkable, I was the only person running because I was already running. No one was running. And this park right now is full of people, kids at the playground, people sitting at this cafe and many other cafes. The zoo is open, people just strolling and living. And so what we really see here is the epitome of this idea of inner freedom. Earlier today, I was at the barber shop, and my barber said, if you can face the reality that missiles are going to be falling around you every day, you can take on almost anything. It really is it's a remarkable spirit. But despite that, there is a deep heaviness among Ukrainians and people who care for Ukraine. Russia is certainly in a new phase and really pushing to pound Ukraine to death, especially cities like Kharkiv. And if you look at, there's a lot of concerns at what's happening and what's not happening in Washington. Bob, you quoted Charles Dickens the other day. The best of times, the worst of times.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is an age of courage, but also an age of cowardice, and very, very disturbing signs. Even just looking at the optics of it, regardless of what's happening behind the scenes. For example, Lord Cameron, David Cameron, Lord Cameron, the British Minister of Defense, has been in Washington, and Mike Johnson did not meet with him. The Speaker of the House did not meet with Lord Cameron, and I just learned that Jake Sullivan downgraded his meeting with Lord Cameron to a simple phone call while Lord Cameron was in Washington. This is extraordinary, given everything that's happening right now. We look again at what Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, speaking to Congress yesterday, he was criticizing Ukraine. And, it's one thing if you feel that you have to criticize Ukraine to do it, by calling President Zelensky, but to do it so publicly in this moment when clearly Russia seems to be smelling weakness and the way they are pounding Ukrainian cities. By the way, Kyiv was also hit heavily and pounding these cities and doing everything they can to break this country. Why is there not such, well, it's clear there's not leadership from Washington. And the question should be, why? And if we look at all of the things that, so much of the blame right now goes toward Republicans. Even President Zelensky's office, his United 24 media project, they had a campaign yesterday with Hollywood celebrities urging Congress to act on Ukraine. And I'm mystified why they did this, because this is not going to persuade, your average Republican is not going to be moved by seeing Hollywood elites tell them what to do. It's a very tone-deaf thing. And, yes, the Republicans will not send the money, but the White House, has consistently refused to send Ukraine weapons needed for victory. And for example, there's something like 3,200 of these ATACMS, these medium to long range weapons, that when they are, the few that have been sent to Ukraine have made a difference. But there's more than 3,000 sitting in the U.S., almost expired. Some of them are already expired, something America is never going to use, and Washington won't send them. The same thing with Abrams tanks. And at the very least, someone should ask, from the Ukrainian perspective here, I'd say, someone in Washington should be asking the question. It seems that we have these in supply in the U.S. Why will the White House not permit them to be sent to Ukraine? I think as a starting point, that might be a good way to figure out exactly what is going on and who stands on what side here. And then this is So yeah, the best picture I can paint for you is sort of a best of times, worst of times, even right here in Kharkiv. And you can always go to UkrainianFreedomNews.com and see the video of everyone around me. But it is such a beautiful scene here in this park at this moment, even though I can still hear the echo of those horrible thuds of the incoming missiles from just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, it's wild when I see the videos that you do, and you can go to WGNradio.com, the Sirott Show page, and we'll link you to Joseph. It's really incredible in light of what's going on there. Joe, how do you respond to people who say this? Let me read this text from a listener. Bob, tell Joseph to lighten up on the U.S. It's getting old. What has the rest of the region given Ukraine? And they have much more at stake. We cannot be the world's policeman in every war.
Well, we have the countries neighboring Ukraine, especially the Baltic countries, the countries that suffered through Sovietism. They're giving half of their defense budgets at least to Ukraine. So they're doing significant work while also arming themselves and preparing themselves. That's the first thing. The second thing is, Ukraine. There's a bipartisan history of Americans, Republicans and Democrats, harming Ukraine and trying to mitigate Ukraine's freedom. In 1991, President George H.W. Bush gave his famous Chicken Kyiv speech in which he urged the Ukrainians, in that moment of the breakup of the Soviet Union, he urged them to not vote for independence, to stick with the Soviet Union. In 1994, President Clinton urged you and pushed the Ukrainians to give up their nuclear weapons. And they did. And Clinton, to his credit, apologized for this. And then in 2005, Senator Barack Obama, Democrat, before he was president, of course, and Senator Richard Lugar, Republican, came to Ukraine and oversaw the dismantling of Ukraine's best weapons. This is paid for by the U.S. The U.S. pushed Ukraine to de-arm. In the 2014 Revolution of Dignity, everyone accuses Victoria Nuland and the State Department of creating that revolution. But actually, she and European and American officials were working to control it, to mitigate it, to make sure it wasn't too much of a people, the people resisting against the elites. And even the Polish foreign minister at the time, who's once again the Polish foreign minister, he warned the protest leaders in 2014 when they were negotiating. He said, if you don't make a deal with the Yanukovych government, you're all going to die. And when the people heard that in the square, they said, fine, we will stay in the square. We will not resist. And several days later, the regime fled and the revolution worked. So we have this long history of America de-arming the free people of Ukraine, encouraging Ukraine to be part of Russia, and Ukrainians refuse to do it. Maybe it's a long answer, but America helped take away Ukraine's weapons. If America cares about freedom and honoring its agreements, which they promised to do in 1994, then the U.S. would help Ukraine. They have the resources to do it, and they're not doing it.
Important history, for sure. Joseph, let me end this morning with this listener text. It is my hope and my prayer that this message might find its way to Joseph in Ukraine. I listen nearly every morning on Bob's show, and my heart just felt he could use this. I pray each night for peace and freedom for Ukraine. And then here is the prayer they sent. Imagine and hold the highest vision of a world at peace where kindness, compassion, and understanding among all people prevail. In my prayer time, I visualize everyone having easy access to everything they need to live in peace. I commit to being an emissary of peace in my home and community. In the stillness of my soul, I listen for guidance and then go forth to do what is mine to do. I continually ask, how can I be a presence of peace? Instead of focusing on what is wrong, I give my attention to life-affirming thoughts, creative ideas, and ways I can be an instrument of peace. My thoughts, words, and deeds are peaceful. I bring peace with me wherever I go. With the light of faith, I affirm, peace be still. World peace begins with me, it's called. Pretty appropriate, Joe.
That's wonderful, Bob, and thank you for sharing that. And if you were here in this park, for everyone listening right now in the center of Kharkiv, you would feel that strange peace. No panic and calm and knowing what's at stake, knowing that any moment you could be dead, but we're all going to die. And that's really the mentality here. And even as I look around me, I see people missing limbs who have been through this hell. And yet there's people have this spirit of we're going to keep going. I met an American was here yesterday to help with demining. He served in Afghanistan. He came here to help Ukrainians who've lost arms and legs. He wants to give them a purpose in life so they don't get too depressed and so they find a way to live, because he's been through that hell as a veteran of Afghanistan, and he's helping training these guys who are missing arms and legs to demine Ukraine. So this is so thank you for sharing that prayer and poem, and this is the spirit I see around me here every day, even as we know I think we're going to have some very, very difficult days ahead of us.
We pray for peace. We pray for you. Thank you, Joseph. We'll talk tomorrow.
Until tomorrow. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important, that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Що сказав?
Well, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?
Єбать.